Welcome to Tracing Your Family Roots. I'm Chuck Mason, and with me today is Janelle Blue. Janelle is president of the Mount Vernon Genealogical Society, our sponsoring organization. And before we forget, do you want to put a plug in for the conference?
Absolutely. Mount Vernon Genealogical Society, we're holding our conference at the latter part of October. Please go to our website, which was just up on the screen, for all the information. We are going to have a theme of writing, and so we want you to take your research, take whatever you've done, the stories, put it into writing. We're going to tell you how to go about doing that. We've got sessions that help you get started using tools, using maps and photos and other things that can enhance the story. About publishing and so forth. So look it up. We've got a great flyer on the website, and that will give you a place to register, and we look forward to you joining us. It's all virtual, so don't worry, you don't have to dress up.
So today we're going to talk about something along those lines, education. And I'll ask you, how did you get started education-wise? First of all, what year did you really get started doing research?
Well, it was probably 2012, I would say. Okay. And I was wrapping up my career in banking, and meanwhile, my husband had been doing some serious research because he had already retired, and so I was aware of the stuff he was doing. And then I went to a conference. The National Genealogical Society has their annual conference. And this year it was in Salt Lake City. Yeah. So we went to that. I went to some of the exhibit tables where the Boston University was giving information on their 16-week course, which I thought would be a great way for me to get started and learn how to do stuff. I mean, I've always been interested in genealogy, but this was my first formal training for that, and boy, was it great. Every week was a different topic, a genealogical topic, and we were graded, and we were, there were expectations, so it was quite good. From there, I started going to all the institutes. The Salt Lake Institute. These are 1-week programs that you sign up for. It's a daily session. It's just like being in school for a week, but it's usually one topic that you learn from really experts in the industry. So that, plus the Genealogical Society annual conferences, and then of course I joined the Mount Vernon Genealogical Society. And there, every month, I heard presentations by great speakers to talk about different topics and begin to reinforce the stuff that I had learned in institutes. And that has been invaluable.
So I kind of got started in what I call the Middle Ages, because there weren't, in fact, for the most part, people weren't using computers when I got started. I had played around for a number of years with things and got nowhere. And finally, in 1989, Fairfax County Adult Education Program had a lot of genealogy courses, and I took a 10-week course, 8 weeks of classroom instruction, and we took a trip to the National Archives and the Library of Congress. And I came out of it feeling dumber than I went in because the instructor taught as if everybody knew who their ancestors were back to the Civil War. And I didn't know that. In fact, I'm struggling with some second great grandparents 30 years later. But I really did not, I got things out of it, but I didn't really feel as if I learned a whole lot. And so I said, I'm never going to do this. In fact, I almost gave up. And then I did see that they had a course on going to and using the National Genealogical Society's library when they still had the library up in Arlington. And I met an instructor there, and she taught a course on using Family History Center, and I got stuff out of it. But then eventually I took a course, and I don't remember which one I actually took first, but with Andrea Osenchek, who was the president of the Fairfax Society at the time. And she was the one that I really clicked with and really got into this. And as I say, I praise her at times and I curse at her for things she's gotten me into, including being secretary of Fairfax Society, which ended up with me being on the board for 14 years.
Oh my.
So there wasn't a whole lot. NGS had a home study course, which I did take, and we had adult ed, but computers were not the in thing, so we didn't have a whole lot online like we do today. But today there's so much that we really have and can use. So you want to talk about one or two of them?
First of all, I want to applaud you and everyone who did research before Ancestry came online. When I look at some of the files of people who have researched in those days, the amount of tenacity and patience that it would take to mail off for inquiries, to look into things. I mean, you couldn't be someone that was shy to do that, because
census records, Ancestry, it's so easy, type it in, and if everything is correctly indexed, you find people. But back then, you had to go to the National Archives. You had to use the Soundex for the later censuses, or you had to use the index books, which were not perfect.
Yeah.
One of my Pan Coastline, half of them got indexed as Pan Coast and half Pan Coast, and yet when you go to the actual census record, there's only one that I find is hard to read, and you could say it's cost, not coast, but the others, it's as clear as can be, but they were misindexed.
And now the census is everywhere. I mean, every website has got availability to the census. But in those days, I mean, you can still go back to National Archives and see the books. Or I suppose you can see
you can see the films.
The film.
I don't know whether they will still bring the books out or not. At
Probably
one
not.
point, if the film was really unreadable, they would, because I, as teaching for adult ed, I used to take a group down to the archives, and I had about 5 or 6 students that we really could not read on the microfilm what was there, so they pulled the actual books. So I've seen 5 or 6 of the books, the actual census books that are down there.
And I've learned to do that too. If there is an original document somewhere that I can get my hands on, I want to see that, because often there's something in the margins, or there's something else that could wind up being really important. If our viewers are just starting out in genealogy, or you're not quite sure just how many dollars you want to put into it at this point, you're just really thinking about it. Now we've got websites all over the place that have all kinds of good information that you can begin to think about genealogy and think about the kind of research you're doing and where you might be able to find additional information. And the first one that I want to talk about, and by the way, if you have a pencil handy, I'm going to put the websites up for you briefly, but at least you can copy those down, since there's no way to get a handout to you. And that will give you something then that you can follow up to see. Facebook, in fact, our society just had a speaker on Facebook and how valuable those Facebook groups are. And if you really want to know how to go about finding one, actually just Google genealogy on Facebook, and do it in that way. And all of a sudden, these wonderful information comes up. Right now, it'll send you to a website that is going to be transferring it over to Cindy's List, and almost everybody knows about Cindy's List. She's taking over this website, but when you open it up, it's got every Facebook group imaginable, and this would be by topic. Every society's got a Facebook group. There are families that have Facebook groups. For instance, the German Genealogy group has one. The Texas Germans have one. It's endless. And so you can go in, and usually you have to register with them, but it's free otherwise. And this is an opportunity for you to get in contact with other people.
Well, of course, I want to mention Cindy's List to begin with.
Yeah.
Cindy's List started, I guess it's probably close to 30 years ago, just as a list that she was finding things for her local society out in Washington State. And it has grown. And Cindy's List, when I don't know anything on a topic, Cindy's List is the place that I go to. I guarantee you will find more things because you find a link to this and a link to this and a link to this, and finally you get several hours later and it's like, what did I start looking at? I've only once not found a topic that I was looking for, and I was working on putting together a lecture on research on the Mid-Atlantic states, colonial research, and nothing came up. Lots of stuff on colonial New England, but nothing for the Mid-Atlantic states. But that's the only topic I've hit a brick wall with. Most others I find more than I have time to read. So it's a great resource.
If you go directly into Cindy's List, it's going to tell you that she's in transition right now and that website is under construction. But if you go to Google, what I told you to begin with, you'll still see where it was originally, and that's going to be transferred over. So amazing, and you're right. Cindy is it's just phenomenal how much stuff she's got.
And she is
there.
a real person.
She's a real person.
People didn't believe initially that she was a real person, and I had a number of people say that to me, and I said, oh no, I've met her at a couple of conferences.
Oh yeah.
She's a real person.
Oh, she is, and she is a presenter often. The next one is called Legacy Family Tree Webinars, and they certainly have webinars presentations that you pay for, but they also have some that are free. And that will give you a taste of a lot of different topics. And if you go on to their website right now, I think you'll see some of the ones that are coming up. Like, for instance, the title was, in October 15th, My Ancestors Were Irish or Were They? There's another one, My 20-Year Mystery, Finding Family Origins with DNA. That's just two that I pulled out to give you an idea of the kinds of things that are there. So that is well worth just clicking into it to see if there's something of interest to you. The next one is Diane Suttard, and boy, she is an expert on DNA. And she has her own website. You can also look for her because she's definitely on the speaker circuit, and so she is often presenting. But when you go to her website, you're going to pay for some of the things that she has to offer. But to get started, she's going to tell you good things about testing, DNA testing. You know, what test should I use? What will it tell me? How can I use it in my, and that's all there for anyone to read. And it's a good way to get started with your DNA. And she has, I've seen many of her presentations, and she's really good. So that's worthwhile. And then of course, if you really get serious into it, you can subscribe to one of the ones that she has that have a charge. Lisa Louise Cook is another person that you see at almost every conference she exhibits, and she has what she calls Genealogy Gems, and you can go in there. She's got a podcast, and she also does webinars, as many other things, but those are the things that are for free. And there's a ton of topics that she does, something called the 11s, as well. These are just programs that she has. For instance, on her podcast, How to Find Genealogy in the National Archives online catalog, which is no easy thing to do.
Yes.
She also had an interview with Lindsay Fulton on how to find early ancestors in New England. The Elevenses is a free weekly YouTube genealogical webinar. And some of the shows are like Plotting Land or 1950 census questions, which is a topic that we're all interested in at this point because that's coming out very soon, isn't it?
Yes, April the 1st.
April of next year?
Of next year. Yep.
I was going to say they're late.
Yep. No, April the 1st of 2022 will be the 72-year mark.
Wow.
And so it will open. So I'm anxious to see what's on there. I don't expect to find any surprises, but I will appear on there.
Yeah, I know. We will too, I think. And of course, Lisa Louise has a premium subscription. If you decide that's what you want to do, you can subscribe to her thing. American Ancestors is one of the oldest genealogical societies in the U.S. It was established in 1845. And quite a respected organization in family history. And they have many tools on their website, but you can also watch free videos containing family history research tips, tools, lectures on art, architecture, talks with best-selling authors, and how-to videos. So, I mean, an example of research subjects is getting started in Portuguese genealogy, which is an interesting topic I'm sure for some people it would be very interesting. And also researching New England planters to Nova Scotia. So it's very New England focused, but if you've got early ancestors, that's a place to go.
When you say Portuguese, if you have Fall River ancestors in Massachusetts.
In Massachusetts, yeah.
That was originally, or I don't know whether it was originally settled by people from Portugal, but a very big Portuguese community.
Yeah,
So
Rhode Island too, I
in,
think.
In there.
Yeah. Family Tree Magazine is a subscription-based, but you can go on the website and before you have to actually subscribe, you can access a lot of what they have to offer, and they have one thing that I clicked on without any problem, and that was like the 10 best genealogy data sites. And so there's information on that site that will help you access other stuff. So that's well worth doing. The next one is Utah Genealogical Society. And I mentioned before that they do a lot of things. The society itself sponsors several different kinds of things that are available. They have the Facebook, but they also have special interest groups. You don't necessarily have to be able to belong to that society to access some of that. You know, their goal is really teaching genealogy to as many people as possible. And so it's worth going to their website, taking a look at all of the stuff that's available there. And also, this will give you a glimpse into one of the institutes that I mentioned early, the Salt Lake Institute of Genealogy, SLIG. And every year they have a week-long course. There is a cost to that, as you can imagine, but it is well worth subscribing to that if you're serious, if you want to get serious about a particular topic, and especially there. And by the way, you know, when you go to SLIG, it's 2 blocks down from the Family History Library, so you know, you can really maximize your time in Salt Lake City. But their DNA Special Interest Group on Facebook is open to everybody, and it provides the group a place to share information, resources, to ask each other questions. It's well worth your time, and you know, there are a lot of very well respected, accredited, certified people who are involved in this society.
Yes.
So The next one is FamilySearch, and we could spend this
whole show.
whole show and many others on FamilySearch. FamilySearch is, it's not the same thing as the Utah Genealogical Society, but it's all wrapped up kind of in that family. FamilySearch is an organization that has been digitizing records before anybody else has. And they've been going out into countries, into counties, into communities, and filming, first of all. So there's stuff there that you're not going to find hardly anywhere else. And if you can access it this way, and now they're digitizing it, so.
And this is connected with the Family History Library
Yes.
in Salt Lake, and it's all of those films that they are still going out and filming. And I talked to someone recently within the last week and a half and asked, their goal was to have it done by the end of this year. And they said, no, they are getting close, but it's not going to completely be done. And of course, one of the holdups is they have to go back to the owners of the records that were microfilmed many years ago and get permission to digitize them and put them on the website. Or in some cases, they're restricted where you still have to go in to a family history center. And while we're talking about family history centers, I want to give a plug to the Washington, D.C. Family History Center, which is out actually in Kensington, Maryland. Carol Petranik and her husband Gary, and there's another two workers or leaders of that Family History Center, and I unfortunately don't know their names, but they have special interest groups that you can sign up for, but also they have a fantastic newsletter. Comes out once a month. It's emailed to you. It's free. Go, if you are not signed up on it, go sign up on it. I mean, it's just, the articles are just fantastic. Sometimes the articles are so interesting that I have no interest in the subject, but I just read the articles because they're so good. And that's totally free. To get the newsletter, totally free to use a Family History Center, and we have a number of them here in Northern Virginia. But right now, I think Kensington, they are doing reservations. I don't know about visiting the others.
Well, I'd like to put a plug in for Mount Vernon Genealogical Society because we have become an affiliate library, which means that if you go into FamilySearch and you find the thing you're looking for, but it has a little X on it or something that you can't access, it means that you have to go to a family history library or an affiliate to get that. And we have recently
finally gotten
we are authorized. Now here's the rub. We're still not open.
Yes.
Thanks to the pandemic, our Holland Hall Center, where our library is still closed. But we're hoping that that will resolve itself at least by the end of the year, so that for those of you who live in this area, or anyone for that matter who wants to come into our library, you will be able to access those documents that just as if you went to Kensington or to the library in Salt Lake City. So. We're very, very proud to be able to do that.
Yes, and Kensington also in May, although they haven't had it the last 2 years because of the pandemic, they put on a fantastic conference, I think it's between 300 and 400 people out there to the Family History Center and do a great conference.
Well, Carol and Gary are fantastic speakers. We've had them both speak at the Mount Vernon Genealogical Society, but I've seen them in many other places, and they're so knowledgeable about many things, not just FamilySearch. So it's well worth your time.
And Carol has been a guest on the show
Yes,
several times.
that's right. Talking about the Greek
yes,
the Greek records.
Because she has been involved in getting a lot of Greek records from Sparta, Greece.
Yeah.
filmed through the Family History Center.
Exactly. I want to just touch on RootsWeb. Ancestry bought them, and that's changing, but that is a free genealogical community that has hosted websites and message boards with, at one time, the world's largest online genealogical community. I don't know that that's necessarily the same, but you can look into it and see for yourself. And last but not least, we need to give a plug to our own genealogical societies right here in Fairfax County. And Fairfax Genealogical Society, Chuck, you were president for many years there.
Just for 1 year. I was on the board for 14 years, but only president for 1 year. And they offer a number of special interest groups in addition to their monthly meeting and their monthly education class. They have a number of special interest groups. I know the Mid-Atlantic group is still meeting via Zoom. In fact, I just got an email the other day about the next meeting coming up. So, check out their website. The web address is right up there on the screen.
And finally is Mount Vernon Genealogical Society, last but not by any means least. And we do the same thing. We have monthly meetings, just as Fairfax does, with good presenters. And those are planned well in advance so that you can, check your calendar. We're still doing everything on Zoom. Hopefully that will change by the end of the year. We have special interest groups. Some of our members are Fairfax members. They're interchangeable, and you can attend the special interest groups. There's no fee for that. Of course, and you can always attend our monthly meetings as a guest, although we would ask that you limit that because we want you to become a member. And so right now that is Zoom, but soon we're going to be back at 1500 Shenandoah Road at the Holland Hall Center. And, as soon as our doors open, we hope you will join us there. The other thing about the societies is that you get to be with other people who are interested. Yeah. And so you can talk about your genealogy and they're not going to yawn because they're very interested in it and they want to tell you about theirs. They can also give you some good ideas if you get stumped on stuff. So people love to talk about their research.
Yes.
Chuck, this has been fun.
It has been. And educational. I picked up some tips.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't know Cindy's list was changing.
Well, Cindy's list is not changing except for that one thing.
The Facebook thing.
But it'll be great if she takes it over. So
yeah,
that's good. All right. Well, thanks again.